All right, strap in everyone, because today we are going deep into the world of Rhyno Cybersecurity.
Rhyno Cybersecurity.
Yeah, so imagine you're that heart-stopping moment when you realize your business has been hit by a major cyber attack.
Oh, yeah.
Ransomware is holding your data hostage, or maybe you've got a rogue employee wreaking havoc.
Yeah, data theft.
It's a nightmare scenario, right?
Totally.
Well, that's where Rhyno Cybersecurity comes in.
Mm-hmm.
They're like the digital detectives you call when you need to solve those cybersecurity nightmares.
That's a great way to put it.
And we've got a ton of their material to dig into today, like case studies, technical breakdowns, all sorts of fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
Our mission today is to find out how Rhyno helps businesses not just survive a cyber attack, but actually use it as a chance to come back even stronger.
Right. It's not just about fixing the damage.
Yeah.
It's about understanding who attacked you, why they did it, and then using that knowledge to build back better security.
I love that, building back better. So let's jump right into those first panic-inducing moments after a breach.
Okay.
The material really emphasizes Rhyno's rapid activation process.
Rapid activation.
So what makes them so quick on the draw?
Speed is everything in these situations.
Right.
Every minute counts. You know, Rhyno has these dedicated teams that are ready to deploy 24/7.
Wow.
They're constantly on call.
Oh, wow.
And they use some seriously cutting-edge tools to identify and neutralize threats fast.
I'm picturing a digital fire extinguisher, but one that also investigates the cause of the fire.
Uh-huh. Exactly.
And helps you rebuild afterwards.
Yeah, precisely.
So they contain the blaze and meticulously put it out.
That's a good way to think about it.
They call it
containment and eradication.
Containment and eradication.
Yeah.
I like that.
So first, they isolate the affected systems.
Okay.
Stop the threat from spreading like wildfire.
Right.
And then they go in and completely eradicate it from your network.
So it's like a digital SWAT team, right?
Yeah.
Securing the perimeter and gathering intel on the enemy at the same time.
Precisely.
Okay, so once they've contained that immediate threat,
Yeah.
they shift into detective mode, right?
Right, that's the investigation phase.
Investigation.
And this is where their forensic expertise really shines.
I bet.
I mean, they analyze everything: network traffic, system logs, malware samples.
Not every digital breadcrumb.
Yeah, every trace the attacker left behind.
It's amazing to me how they can take all that data and piece together a story.
It is pretty incredible.
It's one thing that really struck me is that they don't just disappear into some digital black hole for weeks on end.
Yeah, no.
They actually keep the client informed throughout the investigation.
Open communication is really key
Totally.
to building trust and collaboration.
Absolutely.
So they provide regular updates, plain English explanations.
Oh, that's great.
So you don't have to be a tech expert to understand what's going on.
Okay, so they're not just fixing the tech, but they're also managing the human side of the crisis.
Yeah, they get it.
That's huge.
A cyber attack is stressful.
Totally.
It's more than just a technical glitch.
Okay, now let's get to what is probably the most nerve-wracking part of this whole thing: negotiating with the attackers.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in a ransomware situation.
Yeah.
The material mentions they actually have a whole team dedicated to this.
Yes, they have expert negotiators.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Who are specifically trained to communicate with these cyber criminals,
Wow.
understand their motivations, and de-escalate the situation.
So they speak the language of cyber criminals.
Yeah, they know how to talk the talk,
Wow.
but they also know how to protect their clients.
That's reassuring.
Their goal is to get the best possible outcome for the client.
So that could more...
Whether that means reducing the ransom demand,
Okay.
negotiating payment terms,
Got
or
it.
even finding ways to recover data without paying at all.
Is that even possible?
Sometimes, yeah.
That's incredible.
They've got some talented people on that team.
Wow, that must be such a delicate dance to navigate.
It really is.
And, they always emphasize operating within legal and ethical boundaries, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
One of the sources we looked at even included
Ryan.
a case study about a manufacturing company they helped.
Okay.
And the CEO had nothing but praise for Rhyno.
That's right.
He was really impressed with their adversary profiling, their digital forensics, the way they handled the ransom negotiation, and got his infrastructure back online.
So they saved the company from a major disaster.
Potentially, yeah.
It sounds like they really go above and beyond for their clients.
They do.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about something called entry point discovery.
Entry point discovery.
Entry point discovery.
Mhm.
What is that exactly?
So that's where Rhyno really digs deep
Okay.
to figure out exactly how the attacker got in.
Like finding the weak link in the chain.
Yeah, it's like detective work, but in the digital world.
Ooh, I like that.
So by figuring out how the breach happened,
They can help prevent similar attacks from happening again in the future.
so it's not just about fixing the current problem, but also like strengthening their defenses for the long haul.
Exactly. It's a proactive approach.
Okay, I like it.
So their process is actually quite fascinating.
Yeah, tell me about it.
So they start with this initial assessment,
Right.
where they analyze all the network traffic, the security logs.
Like digital fingerprints.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm picturing Sherlock Holmes with a laptop.
Yeah, something like that.
What happens next?
Then they move on to like advanced forensic analysis,
Okay.
where they use these really sophisticated tools to trace the attacker's every move.
So it's like they're digitally recreating the crime scene.
Yes,
To
exactly.
see how the attacker moved through the system.
That's a great way to visualize it.
So they're not just like patching the hole, they're figuring out how the hole was dug in the first place.
Precisely.
This is starting to sound a bit like a cyber espionage thriller.
It kind of is, isn't it?
It is. All right, so what happens next?
Okay, so once they've identified how the attacker got in,
Mm-hmm.
they move on to what's called vulnerability identification.
Okay.
So here they analyze all the systems and applications,
Okay.
looking for any weaknesses, misconfigurations, anything the attacker could have exploited.
So it's like after a bank robbery,
Mm-hmm.
they would analyze the security system to see if it was faulty or if there was an inside job.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
They're not just looking for the obvious, they're looking for anything that could have been overlooked.
Okay.
And then they move on to remediation and reinforcement.
Remediation and reinforcement.
So that's where they patch the holes and strengthen the defenses.
But it's more than just putting a Band-Aid on the problem, right?
No, it's about making the system stronger,
Okay.
rebuilding it to be more resilient.
So it can withstand future attacks.
Exactly.
That's amazing. So they're not just restoring the system, they're like upgrading it
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
to be better than it was before.
And this whole process is part of what they call a continuous improvement cycle.
Oh, I like that.
So they're always learning, they're always improving.
Okay, so they're using the insights from each incident to refine their overall cybersecurity strategy.
Exactly.
So they're always getting better.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move on to something that sounds incredibly intriguing. Adversary profiling and breach analysis.
Adversary profiling.
Adversary profile.
It's fascinating stuff.
I bet. So it's like building a psychological profile,
Yes,
but in the digital world.
exactly. You're trying to understand the attacker.
Okay.
Who are they? What motivates them?
Right. Was it a lone hacker, a sophisticated criminal organization, or even like a nation-state sponsored group?
Yeah, those are all possibilities.
Wow. So the suspect list could range from a kid in their basement to like a James Bond villain.
You never know who's behind the keyboard.
That's pretty wild. Okay. So each adversary has its own unique characteristics and motivations, right?
Right, and understanding those characteristics can really change how you respond.
Makes sense. It's like the difference between dealing with a petty thief and a master criminal.
Exactly.
So how do they go about creating these profiles?
Well, it's a multifaceted approach.
Okay.
They start by analyzing every detail of the breach itself.
So like the malware they used, any clues they left behind.
Exactly. Anything that might give them a clue about the attacker's identity.
So it's like they're studying the attacker signature, you know?
Yeah, their unique style and methods.
Right. And they have access to all these databases.
Massive databases.
Threat intelligence, historical data.
Oh, yeah. They've got a wealth of information to draw from.
So they're like assembling this digital criminal profile.
Precisely.
And they also incorporate something called behavioral analysis, right?
That's right. They study the attacker's actions during the breach.
So how they move through the system, what they targeted.
Exactly.
So they're trying to figure out, like, were they cautious and methodical or reckless and destructive?
Yeah, it's like observing a suspect's body language to get clues about their intentions.
That's fascinating. So once they have this profile, what do they do with it?
They use it to develop a tailored response plan.
Okay.
So they can anticipate the attacker's next move, develop countermeasures, and even predict future targets.
So it's like a playbook specifically designed for the opponent you're facing.
Exactly.
But it's not a static playbook, right?
No, it's constantly evolving.
Because the bad guys are always changing their tactics.
Right. They have to adapt to stay ahead of the curve.
This is like a constant game of cat and mouse.
It is, but with incredibly high stakes.
That's a good point. Speaking of high stakes, let's talk about ransom negotiation.
Ah, yes. Ransomware. The digital hostage situation.
It's tempting to think you can handle it yourself, especially when you're in that panic mode.
It's natural to want to just pay the ransom and move on.
Like, I just want this to be over.
I get it.
But Rhyno strongly advises against that DIY approach, right?
Yes, they do.
Why is that?
Because attempting to negotiate with these ransomware attackers without expert help can be incredibly dangerous.
Okay, so it's like trying to disarm a bomb yourself.
Uh-huh.
You might think you're saving time and money, but you could easily make things worse.
Exactly. You could end up escalating the situation, leading to higher demands, more data loss, even legal issues.
So don't try to be a hero.
That's right.
Call in the professionals.
They have a specialized team for this.
Okay, so they're like hostage negotiators for the digital world.
Yes. They know how to communicate effectively. They understand the psychology of cybercriminals.
They can navigate those tricky situations.
Exactly.
Their goal is to
minimize the financial impact on the client.
Right. So that could involve reducing the ransom demand, negotiating payment terms, and finding ways to safely recover the data.
Yeah, they're really good at what they do.
And they always operate within the law.
Absolutely. They even work with law enforcement when necessary.
That's good to know. That must be reassuring for clients who are feeling really vulnerable.
It definitely is. They're not alone in this.
Okay, let's step into the fascinating world of digital forensics.
Now we're talking, this is where it gets really interesting.
It sounds like something straight out of CSI.
It kind of is. It's all about uncovering the truth through digital evidence.
So their work in this area is incredibly diverse, right?
Very diverse.
I mean, they handle everything from workplace investigations and intellectual property theft to data recovery and even providing expert witness testimony in court.
It's a wide range of services.
Wow, so they really do it all. Let's break it down a bit. What kind of workplace investigations do they handle?
All harassment allegations, unauthorized data access, policy violations, potential sabotage, things like that.
So they're looking for digital clues to figure out what happened.
Yeah, they'll analyze company devices, network logs, emails, anything that might hold evidence.
So it's not just about catching the bad guys. It's also about creating a safer, fairer work environment.
Right, and they also handle cases of intellectual property theft and trade secret misappropriation.
That's a big one for businesses.
Especially for companies that deal with sensitive information.
Yeah, so it's like having a digital private investigator on your side.
Exactly, protecting those valuable assets.
Protecting you from corporate espionage.
Exactly.
Okay, what about employee misconduct?
That can range from something as simple as misuse of company resources.
Right.
All the way to more serious things like fraud and embezzlement.
Wow, so they can help companies figure out what happened, identify any patterns.
Yeah, and even provide evidence for disciplinary action.
Okay, now what about insider threats?
Those can be really tricky.
Because the attacker already has access to the system.
Exactly. They're already on the inside.
So it's like the ultimate betrayal.
It can be devastating.
Okay, so Rhyno's investigators, they can help identify those vulnerabilities and implement strategies to mitigate those risks.
They're experts at spotting those red flags.
So it's like having a security consultant who can help you build a more secure organizational culture.
Precisely.
That's really valuable.
And, of course, we can't forget about data recovery.
Yeah, data recovery.
It's a critical service.
Especially in today's world.
Where data is everything.
It's like losing your memory.
Yeah, all your valuable information just gone.
So Rhyno's experts, they're like digital surgeons.
Yeah, they can perform some pretty amazing feats.
Recovering lost or compromised data from all sorts of sources.
Damaged hard drives, deleted files, even encrypted data.
It's like they can pull your valuable data from the wreckage of a digital disaster.
They're the data recovery specialists.
But the expertise doesn't stop there.
Nope.
They also provide expert witness and litigation support services.
That's right.
So in cases where digital disputes end up in court, Rhyno's experts can present their findings in a clear, concise, and legally sound manner.
They're the bridge between the technical world and the legal system.
Yeah, so they're like translators making sure everyone understands the digital evidence.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, now let's move on to the final stage of Rhyno's emergency response process. Infrastructure restoration.
Infrastructure restoration, getting you back on your feet.
So this is about getting a business back online after an attack and doing it in a way that's secure, resilient, and meets all the necessary regulatory requirements.
Exactly. It's a crucial step.
I bet.
And they really emphasize the importance of rapid recovery.
Rapid recovery.
Yeah, because they know that downtime costs money.
Time is money.
Yeah.
Especially after a cyber attack.
Every minute counts.
But it's not just about speed.
Right.
It's also about restoring things in a secure way.
Of course, security is paramount.
Okay, good. So that means preventing future attacks.
And making sure the data is accurate and complete.
Data integrity, that's super important.
It is. You don't want to restore corrupted data.
And they use the restoration process as an opportunity to enhance the client's security.
They're always looking for ways to improve security.
So they're not just putting things back to how they were,
Yeah.
they're making the system stronger.
Exactly. More resilient to future attacks.
I like it. It's like rebuilding a house after a fire, but making it fireproof the next time around.
That's a great analogy.
So they take a methodical approach.
Yeah, step by step.
They start with an assessment.
Like a building inspector checking for damage.
So they're looking for cracks, weaknesses,
Exactly. Anything that might compromise the integrity of the system.
and then they create this customized recovery plan.
That's tailored to the client's specific needs.
So restoring systems, data from backups, making sure everything is working correctly.
Yeah, it's a comprehensive process.
And they implement system hardening and security enhancements.
Right. They're patching vulnerabilities, updating software, deploying new security technologies.
So they're building a digital fortress.
A fortress that's much harder to breach.
I like that.
And they don't just stop there. They provide ongoing support and monitoring to make sure the systems stay secure.
So they're really committed to helping clients recover and become stronger.
Absolutely. It's all about resilience.
That's a great point. Their approach to infrastructure restoration really highlights their commitment to long-term resilience.
They're not just putting out fires. They're helping their clients build a foundation that can withstand future storms.
Well said. It's about building a digital infrastructure that can withstand even the most sophisticated attacks.
Exactly. That's the ultimate goal.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today,
We have.
but there's still more to explore in the world of Rhyno Cybersecurity.
There's always more to learn.
Join us for part 2 of our deep dive,
We'll be back.
where we'll delve deeper into Rhyno's client-centric approach
Looking at how they build those strong relationships with their clients.
and how they work together to navigate the complexities of cybersecurity.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back. So let's dig a little deeper into Rhyno's approach and how they handle the human side of cybersecurity.
The human side.
Because their material constantly emphasizes this client-first approach.
It's not just about the technology.
Right. It's about building trust and working together.
Exactly. They understand that a cyber attack is more than just a technical disruption.
Right.
It's a really unsettling event for everyone involved.
Of course.
So they treat their clients like partners,
Partners,
not just cases.
that's just numbers on a spreadsheet.
Right. They actually care about the people they're helping.
So it's like having a trusted friend guiding you through a crisis.
That's a good way to put it.
Not some faceless tech support hotline.
Yeah, no one wants to deal with that.
No, especially not when you're already stressed out.
Exactly.
The material mentions their 24/7 incident response, but they're not just robots waiting for a command, are they?
No, definitely not robots.
Okay, good.
They combine speed with empathy.
I like that.
They understand that clear communication is absolutely vital in a crisis.
Of course. So they take the time to explain what's happening,
Yeah, what they're doing, why it's important,
and they do it in a way that anyone can understand.
even if you're not a tech expert.
So they're not just patching systems, they're calming nerves and building confidence. Okay, that's so important in those moments.
It really is.
And this collaborative approach continues through every single step.
That's right.
So during the containment and eradication phase,
Yeah.
they work closely with the client's own IT team.
To make sure everyone is on the same page.
So it's a coordinated effort, not a chaotic scramble.
Exactly. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Okay, what about during the investigation phase?
Yeah.
Because I'm guessing they don't just vanish into the digital ether for weeks on end before reappearing with a report.
Aha, no, they don't disappear.
Okay, yeah.
They believe in transparency throughout the entire investigation.
Oh, that's good.
So they're regularly sharing their findings, explaining their methods.
So it's like a two-way conversation,
Exactly.
not just a one-sided lecture.
They want the client to feel involved.
Okay, so the client feels like they're part of the solution, not just the problem.
Exactly.
I like that. And this collaborative spirit really shines during negotiation and restoration.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about something like a ransom demand.
The pressure must be immense.
It can be incredibly stressful.
High stakes, ticking clock, so much riding on every decision.
Rhyno gets that.
Okay, good.
They're negotiation experts. They don't just dictate terms.
Okay.
They work with the client.
To come up with a strategy,
A strategy that aligns with the client's goals
risk tolerance.
and ethical boundaries.
So it's not just about getting the data back at any cost. It's about making sure the client is comfortable with the approach.
That's right. It's about doing things the right way.
Okay, and during restoration, it's not just a matter of flipping a switch and everything's back to normal.
No, it's a process.
Okay.
It's about rebuilding, but rebuilding stronger.
More resilient infrastructure.
Exactly.
So they're working with clients to identify those vulnerabilities that might have led to the attack.
They want to prevent it from happening again.
Implement new security measures, turn the whole experience into an opportunity for growth.
That's a good way to look at it.
It's like coming out of the fire, not just unscathed, but fireproof.
I like that. Fireproof.
Yeah, so they're not just restoring the system, they're upgrading it.
And they're providing ongoing support and guidance.
Okay, to help clients stay ahead of those ever-changing threats.
It's a partnership.
Now, let's zoom in on that entry point discovery process.
All right, let's do it.
The material describes it as meticulously tracing the attacker's every move.
It's like digital detective work at its finest.
Yeah, analyzing network traffic, reviewing logs, even interviewing personnel.
They're leaving no stone unturned.
So they're not just fixing the breach, they're solving the mystery of how it happened.
Exactly. They want to understand the whole story.
Okay, so how does that work?
They start with a broad assessment, looking for anomalies, suspicious activity, anything out of the ordinary.
Okay, so it's like piecing together a puzzle, right?
Yeah, with each piece of information bringing them closer to the truth.
I'm picturing a giant wall with evidence, photos, timelines,
Yeah, kind of like that.
red strings connecting everything.
They're following the digital trail.
Okay, so once they've identified that entry point, then what?
Then they move on to vulnerability analysis.
Vulnerability analysis.
Yeah, when they scrutinize the affected systems and applications.
Looking for any weaknesses, misconfigurations, anything that the attacker might have exploited.
Exactly.
So it's like after a break-in, figuring out if the burglar picked the lock or jimmy the window.
Yeah, or maybe found a spare key hidden under the mat.
Or snuck in through an unlocked door.
Exactly. They're looking for how the attacker got in.
Okay, so once they found that weak spot, then what?
Then comes remediation and reinforcement.
Remediation and reinforcement.
That's where they patch those vulnerabilities.
Okay.
Harden the system.
Make it much harder for anyone to get in again.
Exactly.
So they're not just repairing the damage, they're reinforcing the fortress.
That's a good way to think about it.
And throughout this entire process, they keep that open communication.
Always keeping the client informed.
Okay, explaining their findings.
Answering any questions.
So the client feels empowered to make decisions about their own security.
It's a collaborative approach.
This level of transparency and collaboration, it's what really sets them apart.
It's what makes them so good at what they do.
Okay, now let's explore Rhyno's expertise in adversary profiling and breach analysis.
Adversary profiling?
Adversary profiling.
This is where we get into the psychology of the attacker.
It sounds a bit like criminal profiling, but in the digital world.
It is. You're trying to understand the mind of the attacker.
Okay, so they're going beyond just the technical details of the attack.
Right.
Trying to understand who and why.
Exactly.
Was it a lone wolf hacker seeking notoriety, or maybe a criminal organization after financial gain?
Could be.
Or even a nation-state-sponsored group with political motivations.
That's also a possibility.
Wow, so the list of suspects could range from a disgruntled teenager to a foreign government.
The spectrum is pretty wide.
And understanding the adversary's profile, I mean, that can drastically change how you respond, right?
It totally can. It's like the difference between preparing for a street fight and preparing for a chess match.
That's a great analogy.
So how do they go about building these profiles?
That sounds so complex.
It is complex, but they have a system.
Okay.
They start by analyzing every single detail of the breach itself.
The attack vectors.
The malware used, the tactics employed.
Every clue that might reveal something about the attacker.
Exactly. It's like studying the attacker's signature.
Their unique style.
Their methods.
And then they have access to all these databases.
Massive databases.
Filled with threat intelligence, historical data.
Oh, yeah. Years of research and analysis.
So they're essentially assembling a digital criminal profile.
That's right.
And they're not just relying on hard data. They're incorporating behavioral analysis as well, right?
Yes, that's a key part of it.
So they study how the attacker moved through the system.
Were they methodical and patient?
Reckless.
Destructive? Did they leave any taunting messages?
Or try to cover their tracks.
All of those details matter.
So it's like observing a suspect's mannerisms and body language.
To understand their mental state and intentions.
That's fascinating.
And once they have a solid profile, they use that information to formulate a targeted response.
So they can anticipate the attacker's next move, develop countermeasures, even predict future targets.
Exactly. It's all about staying one step ahead.
It's like having a playbook tailored specifically to the opponent you're facing.
That's a great way to put it.
But it's not a static playbook, right?
No, definitely not.
Because the bad guys are always changing their tactics.
Constantly evolving.
So it's a constant game of cat and mouse.
It is a high-stakes game of cat and mouse.
And speaking of high-stakes games, let's dive into a specific type of attack that often involves high-pressure negotiations.
Ransomware.
Ransomware, right?
The digital hostage situation.
It's so tempting to think you can just handle it yourself.
Oh, yeah. No.
Especially when you're feeling panicked and vulnerable.
It's a natural reaction.
I can just pay the ransom and get this over with.
Yeah, I just want my data back.
But Rhyno, they really stress the importance of not going it alone.
They do, and for good reason.
Okay, so why is that?
Because trying to negotiate with these ransomware attackers
Yeah.
without expert guidance, it can be really risky.
It's like trying to disarm a bomb yourself, right?
Exactly.
You think you're saving time and money, but you could easily make the situation much worse.
You could end up getting hurt.
So don't try to be a hero.
Call the experts.
Let them handle the explosive.
They know what they're doing.
So Rhyno has this specialized ransom negotiation team.
A team of experts.
They're like hostage negotiators, but for the digital world.
That's a great way to describe them.
Okay, and their primary goal is to
secure the best possible outcome for the client.
So that could involve reducing the ransom demand,
It could.
negotiating payment terms, or even finding ways to recover the data without paying the ransom at all.
That's the ideal scenario.
So they're not just about paying up, they're exploring every option.
To minimize the damage.
Yeah, and I mean, they always operate within the boundaries of the law, right?
Absolutely. They're ethical and responsible. They even coordinate with law enforcement
When it's appropriate.
to make sure everything is done by the book.
That must be so reassuring for clients who are already feeling vulnerable.
It definitely is. They're not alone in this fight.
Okay, let's step into the world of digital forensics.
The world of digital evidence.
It sounds like something straight out of a crime drama.
It does, doesn't it? Uncovering the truth, following the digital trail.
Okay, so their work in this area is incredibly diverse.
It is. They handle everything from workplace investigations,
Workplace investigations,
intellectual property theft, data recovery.
even expert witness testimony in court cases.
It's a wide range of services.
Okay, so let's break it down a bit. What are some examples of those workplace investigations they might handle?
Oh, all sorts of things, you know. Harassment allegations, bullying, discrimination.
Right, serious stuff.
Unauthorized data access.
Multi violations.
Potential sabotage, things like that.
So they're looking for those digital clues.
To figure out what happened, who was involved.
So it's not just about catching the bad guys.
Right.
It's about ensuring a safe and fair work environment for everyone.
Exactly. That's a big part of it.
Okay, what about intellectual property theft?
Ah, yes. That's a big one.
Especially for companies with sensitive information and trade secrets.
It can be devastating for a business.
So Rhyno can help track that unauthorized transfer of information.
Uncover evidence of espionage.
Even identify the culprits behind the theft.
It's like having a digital private investigator on your side.
Protecting those valuable assets.
Protecting your company's secrets.
Okay, what about employee misconduct?
Well, that can range from minor infractions,
Okay, like what?
misuse of company resources,
Okay.
all the way up to more serious things like fraud and embezzlement.
So they can help companies understand the extent of this misconduct.
Identify any patterns.
Even provide evidence for disciplinary actions or legal proceedings.
Exactly. It's all about getting to the truth.
Okay, and then there's the threat of insider attacks,
Ah, yes, the insider threat.
which can be really challenging to detect.
Because the attacker already has access.
They're already on the inside.
Exactly.
So it's like the ultimate betrayal.
It can be, yeah.
Someone you trust using their access to harm the company.
It's a difficult situation.
But Rhyno's forensic investigators, they're trained to spot those red flags,
They know what to look for.
whether it's data sabotage, espionage, or some other malicious activity,
They can help companies identify those vulnerabilities, strengthen their defenses.
and implement strategies to mitigate those internal risks
It's all about building a more secure organization.
from the inside out.
Exactly.
Okay, now we can't talk about digital forensics without talking about data recovery.
Oh, data recovery.
It's a critical service, especially in today's world.
Data is the lifeblood of many businesses.
Losing access to that data,
It can be catastrophic.
like losing your memory,
All your important information just gone.
So Rhyno's experts, they're like digital surgeons.
They can perform some amazing procedures.
They're skilled in recovering lost or compromised data.
From all sorts of sources.
Damaged hard drives,
Deleted files.
corrupted files.
Encrypted data.
They've even recovered data that seemed totally lost.
It's pretty incredible what they can do.
So they're like a digital rescue team that can pull your valuable data from the wreckage of a digital disaster.
That's a great way to put it.
But their expertise goes beyond just recovering data, right?
Right. They also provide expert witness and litigation support services.
So if a digital dispute ends up in court,
Yeah.
Rhyno's experts can present their findings
In a way that everyone can understand.
in a clear, concise, and legally sound manner.
Exactly. They're the bridge between the technical world and the legal system,
They're the translator.
making sure the evidence is understood.
And that brings us to the end of part 2 of our exploration into Rhyno Cybersecurity.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We've talked about how they handle the human side of cybersecurity.
Their client-centric approach.
Their focus on clear communication
Collaboration.
and building true partnerships to navigate the complexities of cyberattacks. Okay, so we've talked about containing breaches, investigating those digital crime scenes, even negotiating with cybercriminals.
It's a wild world out there.
It is, and as we wrap up our deep dive into Rhyno Cybersecurity, I'm thinking about the bigger picture.
Yeah.
What can we learn from Rhyno's approach? What does it tell us about cybersecurity today?
You know, one thing that really stands out to me
Yeah.
is how they combine cutting-edge technology with human expertise.
Right. It's not just about having the latest tools.
Yeah.
It's about having the right people
Exactly.
who know how to use them effectively.
Yeah, they blend digital forensics with strategic negotiation.
Threat intelligence with infrastructure restoration.
It's that holistic approach that really sets them apart.
It's like they've assembled a team of digital superheroes, each with their own superpower, but they also work together seamlessly as a team.
I like that analogy.
And it's not just about reacting to incidents.
Right.
They also emphasize those proactive security measures.
Prevention is key.
So helping clients identify vulnerabilities, strengthen defenses, develop those strategies to prevent attacks in the first place.
They want to stop the attack before it even happens.
So it's like having a security guard who not only knows how to handle a break-in, but also takes steps to make the property less appealing to burglars in the first place.
That's a good way to put it.
Make it harder for them to even think about targeting you.
Exactly.
Okay, and something else that really stood out to me in the material was how they emphasize the human element of cybersecurity.
Oh, yeah, that's so important.
Because people are often the weakest link, right?
Unfortunately, yes.
Through carelessness, negligence, sometimes even malicious intent.
It's true. Human error plays a big role in a lot of cyber attacks.
So it's not just about firewalls and intrusion detection systems.
Now it's about people.
People making smart choices and being aware of the risks.
Cybersecurity awareness is crucial.
So Rhyno focuses on education,
They do.
working with clients to develop security policies, train employees.
Build a culture of security consciousness.
So it's like creating a neighborhood watch, but for the digital world.
I like that, everyone looking out for each other.
Reporting suspicious activity, working together to keep the community safe.
That's a great analogy.
And they're always prioritizing transparency and communication.
Open communication is key.
They don't keep their clients in the dark.
No, they keep them informed every step of the way.
So the client understands what's happening, they feel involved in the process.
And that helps build trust.
It's not just about fixing the problem. It's about empowering the client to become more secure and resilient in the long run.
It's about giving them the tools and knowledge to protect themselves.
Okay, so as we wrap up, what are the key takeaways? What can we learn from Rhyno's approach to cybersecurity?
Well, I think one of the biggest takeaways is that cybersecurity is not just an IT issue.
Right.
It's a business issue.
It affects everyone.
It affects every aspect of an organization, from operations and finance to reputation and customer trust.
It's a team sport, not a solo mission.
Exactly. It requires a comprehensive approach that involves everyone.
From the CEO to the newest employee.
Everyone has a role to play.
And it's also crucial to remember that prevention is always better than cure.
Absolutely.
While Rhyno excels at incident response.
They do.
They also emphasize the importance of those proactive security measures.
Investing in things like vulnerability assessments, penetration testing, employee training.
Security awareness program.
All of those things can significantly reduce the risk of an attack.
It's like taking steps to secure your home before a burglar even thinks about targeting it.
Exactly. Make yourself a less appealing target.
Okay, and finally, I think Rhyno's work highlights the importance of resilience.
Resilience is key.
Because no matter how strong your defenses are, there's always a chance an attacker will find a way in.
That's the reality of cybersecurity.
So the key is being able to bounce back quickly.
Minimize the damage.
And learn from the experience.
Turn it into an opportunity to improve.
So it's not just about reacting, it's about adapting and evolving.
Cybersecurity is a journey, not a destination.
Well said. As we conclude our deep dive into Rhyno Cybersecurity, the message is clear. Cybersecurity is not just a technical challenge, it's a strategic imperative.
It requires a holistic approach.
A commitment to continuous improvement.
And a strong partnership between organizations and security experts.
And perhaps most importantly,
it requires a shift in mindset.
Recognizing that security is not a destination, it's a journey.
A constant process of adaptation, evolution, and collaboration.
Well, on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive.
It's been a fascinating journey.
We hope you found this exploration of Rhyno Cybersecurity's world of emergency response both informative and thought-provoking.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay secure.